you. All right. Good deal. Well, we may have a few join us as we go, but we will jump in and get started. I want to welcome everyone who's on the call today. I am Kimberly Haugstead with the Wisconsin Rare Disease Alliance. Our alliance is a new organization started in 2023, and we are here to represent the rare disease community here in Wisconsin. We are a coalition of all stakeholders, so families, clinicians, researchers, businesses, allies here in Wisconsin. And we are here to provide a platform, really, to inform and engage Wisconsin decision makers on rare diseases. Our focus is really laser focused on improving access. And that means anything in the diagnosis process or diagnosis, care, treatment, and accelerating the development of new treatments in rare disease. So we're very interested on any of those topics that impact access. This is going to be a brief call today. We've invited Carrie Leto and her lobbyist, JP, hello, to share a little bit about this new bill and introduce that has been introduced here in Wisconsin. And so we want to turn it back to Katie and or Carrie, excuse me, and JP today and get rolling so we can cover this in a few minutes. And thank you guys so much again for joining us today. I'll turn it over to Carrie.
Thanks, Kimberly, for hosting us. We really appreciate it. I know this was very last minute, but that's typical when things move quickly in the legislature. So I am here today to represent Rare and Ready, which Up Equity is a member of, and Rare and Ready is a coalition of 55 nonprofit organizations that do weigh in on state issues, such as the one that we're going to be talking about today. We did have 27 organizations write a letter to our Senate Health Committee from the Rare and Ready Coalition yesterday. And James, who's joining us today, also testified at the coalition hearing, but I'll get more into that later. So I'm going to jump into the issue itself and share some slides. And JP is also with the Campaign for Transformative Therapies. So JP, feel free to chime in if I'm missing anything, but we'll get started. What this bill is about is called value-based arrangements. Now, value-based arrangements has many names. It's also known as outcome-based arrangements. Some people call it value-based payment arrangements. For these purposes today, we're going to call them value-based arrangements or VBAs. So what are VBAs? What they initially do is they tie reimbursement to outcomes. So for example, if a pharmaceutical company says that a particular gene therapy will last, 10 years, and it doesn't last that 10 years, these arrangements tie reimbursement to those type of outcomes. So it can be based on clinical circumstances, like I said, patient outcomes. It can be based on other measures or that are determined. So the reimbursement structure really can vary. It could be a rebate, it can be a refund, a repayment, et cetera, et cetera. So in a nutshell, basically what this means is that when pharmaceutical companies negotiate with state Medicaid offices, which they do already, that value-based arrangements allows the Department of Health Services through Medicaid and the pharmaceutical companies to enter an arrangement where the pharmaceutical company will say, we guarantee this will last 10 years and the patient will do well on it. And if they don't, we will offer a rebate or a refund, or we'll repay you. So if it only lasts for 5 years, we'll offer a 50% rebate or 50% refund. So that's a very high level way of saying it, but it allows access to these really transformative therapies like gene and cell therapy, and it mitigates some cost risk that Medicaid and Department of Health Services take on. So that's really, in a nutshell. JP, please add on anything that I missed here.
No, I think that's right. And I'll be sending over, we've got about 3 pieces that we sent over to the legislators. So we'll send those over for folks if you want to send those out. One's a one-pager, one's an infographic, and one is a 30+ page white paper for folks that want to delve a little bit deeper into it. But I think functionally that's exactly right. The one thing I would add is that these are focused in Medicaid and not in private insurance, because private insurance largely already are able to do a number of these agreements and already do them as a matter of course.
So why are these value-based arrangements necessary, and why are they important? Well, as JP already mentioned, a lot of private insurers are already doing this, but Medicaid is not. So this allows Medicaid to enter into these arrangements and allow access to those patients who are on Medicaid. Gene and cell therapies are here to stay. We just got 2 more approvals for sickle cell gene therapy.
Oh, Carrie, we have lost you. Is anyone else lose? Hello?
For our state to think about the best ways to pay for these therapies and ensure access for everyone, not just those who are on private insurance. Now, people do ask, well, why are these gene therapies so expensive? We've heard $1 million price tags, $2-3 million price tags. Well, why is that? And that kind of gives our state sticker shock as well when they see that. But the extreme complexity of these therapies is why they are expensive to develop. And oftentimes, they can fail in clinical trials, and that money, that billions of dollars that has been spent, up to phase 3 clinical trials is now gone. And they, so these are very expensive therapies developed, different than the other therapies that we have on the market right now. And so that's why there is that high price tag. Some of these therapies can be curative as well. So this could transform a patient's life completely if they can be cured from their disease. So these arrangements are really a new tool. They're a tool to rethink how to pay for these expensive therapies that are coming down the pipeline. But as I mentioned before, they measure the outcome of the treatment. So Medicaid doesn't have to take on so much risk. And they can also help Medicaid programs rethink, how they handle cost, and still allow patients to have access. And 20 states have already received approvals to do this type of contracting with pharmaceutical companies. So what you need is a state plan amendment in order for the Department of Health Services to enter into these agreements if they want to. Now, keep in mind that the current legislation we have here in Wisconsin does not mean that Medicaid has to enter into these agreements. The state plan amendment in this legislation allows the Department of Health Services to do these arrangements with pharmaceutical companies if they so choose. And so it's not a mandate, it's not a force. And so right now in Wisconsin, we have 2 bills. We have Senate Bill 672 and Assembly Bill 687, which allows the Department of Health Services through Medicaid to enter these value-based arrangements with biopharmaceutical companies. It creates a platform to authorize the VBAs if both parties agree on these contracts. And so, as I mentioned yesterday, the Committee on Health held a hearing for the Senate Bill 672. James came all the way from Milwaukee to testify. So thank you so much, James, for doing that. I know, Katie, you had also expressed an interest in testifying. We will have an assembly hearing in January, Katie. So, keep an eye on your email and I'll let you know when that happens. But we are still waiting a hearing date for the assembly one. Now, for the Senate committee yesterday, there was no opposition, which is great news for us. And correct me if I'm wrong, JP, but I think we feel pretty good at this bill moving through the Senate and doing well in the Assembly. Do you want to talk more about that?
You bet. So we chatted. The bill sponsor is Senator Felskowski, and anybody who knows Senator Felskowski she is a bulldog on her issues. She's really good at what she does, and she's very good. She's well respected inside the Senate, especially on insurance issues. So this is something that she took on as a volunteer, and actually agreed. We did not seek her as a sponsor necessarily. We weren't necessarily looking for it, but she agreed to move forward. So she's deeply interested in it. And honestly, her staff is fully engaged on a variety of issues, so she had to assign different staff. So that gives you an idea of the level of commitment that we've got from her. So we're feeling pretty good on the Senate side. We met with pretty much everybody on the Senate side. Provided I just shot most of the information we shot out to the members as well for folks to take a look at, the infographic and others to you, Kimberly. So feel free to share that if folks are interested. We expect a paper ballot to go out in sometime in January, from what we understand from RCG staff. And then once that paper ballot is out, it can move out of the health committee. And the hope is that it could get to the floor by the late January Senate floor period. And if it does that, then it should pass. If there's, again, if there's an interest. And I think our one concern, I think generically, is making sure that folks are aware of the bill consistently, because it's not a huge issue. There's not a lot of opposition, and it's a really important bill. But, on the scale of, say, the Brewers, Milwaukee Brewers Stadium, which is all done, but, it doesn't sort of rise to that sort of discussion level. So we've been meeting with the majority leader's office and in both chambers to make sure they pay attention. As Carrie indicated, the next step would be a hearing in the assembly. And once we have a hearing in the assembly, it doesn't even need to be balloted out of the assembly. It can go right to the floor, assuming the Senate has passed it in messages. And that would allow it to be passed in the assembly at the same time as the Senate. We've also been in touch with the governor's office. As Carrie, I think, indicated, DHS has filed, you may not be aware, has filed for information only written testimony, which said some nice things about this as a process. They have indicated that once they start implementing it, they may request additional staff, but they indicated nice things and seem supportive, even though they filed for information only. So I think if we can keep the attention going and get it to the floor in the Senate, and then we can get it to the floor in Assembly, I think it's got a pretty good shot of getting to be law this year.
Great, thanks, JP. So what can you do? The folks on the call, as we had mentioned, you can attend the assembly hearing and testify in person. In-person testimony from, a patient or a care partner is really, really important. I know the senators were very receptive to James's story yesterday and James speaking on behalf of this bill. And so that type of testimony goes so much further than if JP and I get up there and testify on behalf of this bill. So that's really where we can use your help. And let me tell you, as much as we'd love to give you, like a week's head notice, sometimes we know the assembly hearing like 2 or 3 days before it's going to happen. So be prepared that it might be a very short notice. We're hoping it'll be longer, but just keep an eye on your email. And as soon as we get a date, I will let you know. If you're unable to attend in person, you can always submit written testimony, and I'm happy to help you with that if you like. Again, the more stories we have, the better. And you can reach out individually to your own state legislator, asking them to support the bill. Again, I can send the bill numbers to everybody after the call. And also importantly, as JP mentioned, this isn't a real, issue that's got everyone talking like the Brewers Stadium, right? So it's important to create more awareness on why this is important, especially for our rare disease community. And so please share on social media. Rare and Ready just tweeted today a thank you to the senators and representative who sponsored the bill with a nice picture. So please go to our Rare and Ready Twitter site and reshare that post or post on your own social media. That's really how you can help. And just, staying in the know of what's going on. Kimberly was so great. She sent thank yous to a bunch of representatives and senators on behalf of this bill. So we appreciate everyone just chipping in where they can, because it's really a group effort that's going to help us get this past the finish line.
And Carrie, I would add one thing to your list. When you do a letter of support, there's no reason why you couldn't ask them to sign on as a co-sponsor of the bill, which indicates bigger support for it. We do have bipartisan sign on in the assembly. We've got a good number of folks there, but it just always helps. The more people that are on it, the more interest that will be generated there, and they're committing to vote for it, right? So
Yeah.
when you ask, that's certainly something you can ask them to do, to consider.
Great point. And always feel free to reach out to myself or Kimberly if you don't know who your state legislators are, if you'd like some talking points or some ideas generation on how to reach out. We're always here to help as a resource. And for that, is there any questions about the legislation? I see we have a lot more people that joined. That's so great.
Yeah. Really,
Yeah.
it's important.
James, is there anything you want to say to folks regarding your testimony yesterday, or any tips or tricks that you want to share?
No, I'll just say make it personal about what you're going through and just how it really affects you and how it would help you when you're writing the bill and going over your testimony. It may seem intimidating because you have everyone looking at you, but just focus on why you're there, and that's to get a bill passed that could help you, and that's all I would have to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And James did a great job yesterday. Was very compelling. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions we can take from folks? All right. Well, seeing none, Kimberly, how do you plan to share this recording?
Absolutely. So we will share this on our website. We also will send a link out to everyone who we invited to this call today. So we will turn that around, I would say, within the next couple days, before Christmas for sure. So you'll see that out. Yeah, I think if there are other questions afterwards, please do reach out. You can send a message to me or send a message directly to Carrie. Happy to feel that, and just it's really exciting to hear that it is a bipartisan, supported. It's just so great to get something done. So we're really excited. Carrie, and I don't see any questions in the chat, so I will say, Carrie and JP, thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome. Really
Thank
great
you.
to have you here today. Thank you. We really appreciate
And feel free to share my contact information if folks have other questions on any of the materials or anything else. It's a matter of course. So that's great.
Wonderful, great. So yeah, well, hey, knowledge is power. So we need to have this information, and we really appreciate having it. We will continue to do these kinds of calls over the course of the year as different bills come up. It's really important as a rare community that we are coming together and are aware of what's happening. So want to say, please stay tuned. And thank you so much to everybody for coming today, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.